Live from America's heartland, this is the Daily Truth Report with your host, Noah Christopher.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Truth Report. And returning today, we have a good friend. He's been on several times before, and so excited to have him back on, get a big update today. Chad Stewart, sometimes better known as CR Stewart. Chad, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be back on.
Yeah, so for those that don't know Chad, let me just give a brief background. And for all of those who do, you're going to get a great update here. And it's always fun chatting. We get in here and an hour flies by like nothing. So, Chad is, you can see it behind him. He's the international, I want to get this right, the international award-winning and best-selling author of the Britfield series. What I believe is going to be a 7-book series. It's books, it's movies, it's plays, it's maybe ballets. We'll talk about that in a minute. It's incredible. We'll get into all that in just a minute. But first of all, let me just read some, in doing some research for this, Chad, I was looking at some quotes that people have said about your books, and I thought these were so good. People say it's right up there with Lord of the Rings. They're amazing books for children and adults. It's like a combination of Dan Brown and C.S. Lewis, so that's pretty high up there. It's James Bond, but bigger. It's reminiscent of Les Mis and Sherlock Holmes. And then last one is I couldn't put it down. So that is a pretty good list.
It is. You cherry picked. You got the best ones. No, I'm just kidding.
I got a lot more that I just skipped over there. I could have kept going on for a long time. But the Britfield series really is pretty incredible. We'll talk about it all in just a minute. But I also saw in my research getting ready for this, Chad, that it's estimated that as things really heat up in the next 3 years and more books come out and then the movies start coming out, it's estimated that your Britfield series could even surpass Harry Potter in worldwide sales and impact. So that's pretty incredible.
That's our trajectory, and we believe it, completely. That in the next 8 to 10 years, we'll actually outsell the Harry Potter series for a lot of reasons. We can get into that, but it's the trajectory we're on right now, and it's really the next. We're offering this generation of children the next generation of books. We're elevating literature to the Britfield series, and again, we can talk about that and what that means. But it's very unique and different than most of the content that's out there or been out there for not just the last couple decades, but even last couple centuries. So, but I've been inspired by so many of them, everything from Dickens to Jane Austen to Ian Fleming to Roald Dahl to other greats.
Oh yeah, and so important to get that next generation of new classics coming out, and I think that's exactly what you're doing. So we'll get into that all in just a minute. But first, a little housekeeping. We are truly live right now. If you're with us, of course, you might be watching this on replay, but it's Monday, April 21st, 1 p.m. Central Time here where I'm at. 11 a.m. Pacific time. Adjust for your time zone. But if you're watching with us, we're live on YouTube. We're live on Rumble. We're live on X. And so wherever you're at, let me know if we're connected. Just drop me a comment. Let me know if we're coming in okay. You can see us and hear us okay. And let us know where you're listening from. And then as we go, the fun thing is Chad's so fun to talk to that I always have a blast getting to ask my questions. But if anybody out there has questions, type them in and I'll put them up on the screen as we go, and we can make this kind of interactive. So, all right. Well, Chad, so great to have you back on. I don't know how you find time to do these interviews, let alone time to do everything else you're doing, but it really is incredible. I mean, writing a book would be an accomplishment for most people. And these are big books too. They're long books and a lot goes into them. And I know you put your heart and soul and energy into each book, but you're not writing just one, you're writing 7. And then you're doing movies. I want to talk about the movie that's coming up, but for people that don't know you, every time we do this, we get new people coming on for the first time.
Sure.
Tell people what, in your words, without, because you'll do a better job than me. Tell them what's the Britfield universe and what are these books about and what, if a 12-year-old kid gets into one of these, are they going to get like witches and warlocks like Harry Potter? Are they what kind of stuff are they going to get when they read these things?
Yeah, no, great question. And we officially launched book one, Britfield and the Lost Crown, in August of 2019. And prior to that, it took 10 years in development, 4 years and 2,500 hours just to write book one, and then officially launching in 2019. And when we launched, we launched a national school tour, and I ended up driving 9,000 miles, visited 23 states, presented to over 200 schools in front of more than 40 to 50,000 students, usually fourth through eighth graders, sometimes 400 students in an auditorium, which was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And that was always my goal. Our beachhead from day one has always been the elementary and middle schools. And our goal for the Britfield series is the next generation of children, and really bringing in, if you will, clean, edifying, family-focused content. And I think what makes book one so powerful, so incredible, it's actually one of the most awarded books in children's fiction. It's in the top 3% of all books as far as sales within the same time frame. And as you said, it has the trajectory to actually outsell Harry Potter in the next 8 to 10 years, which I believe we will do. But it starts in book one starts up in Yorkshire, England, and it's at this awful orphanage called Weatherly Orphanage, and it's about Tom, 12-year-old orphan. He's been an orphan his whole life. He's been at Weatherly for 6 years, and this is the year he's going to escape. And I love that because that comes out within the first 2 pages. It's not a story about an orphanage. It's about getting out of an orphanage. And eventually, he's not going anywhere without his best friend, Sarah, and they eventually commandeer a hot air balloon, start flying. They're trying to get to London, the greatest city in the world. That's kind of every orphan's dream. If we ever get out of here, go to London. But a funny thing happens on their way to London, if you will. And they commandeer a hot air balloon because they're relentlessly chased by the illustrious Detective Gowerstone. And that particular character was based a little bit on Sherlock Holmes, a little bit on James Bond. So it's kind of funny how some of those comments come into the remarks or feedback. And then they end up going to Oxford, Windsor, London, and finally down to Canterbury. And it really is a fast-paced, high-octane story. It's based on family, friendship, loyalty, courage, and hope. We don't bring in any kind of witchcraft, demigods, superheroes, heightened fantasy, none of what I would really consider nonsense that's saturating the market. And what it's doing to children when it saturates the market with that type of content is it disconnects them from reality, makes them feel less than they are, right? If I just had magical powers, if I just could say a spell, we think every child is amazing. We think every child is talented, creative, and has an amazing place in this world. And we're trying to inspire that with the children that read it. And as they're reading about the stories, they learn about history, geography, art, architecture, and culture. And we incorporate the 4 C's: creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration. And it just builds and it builds and it builds. And there's like royal mystery, Britfield and the Lost Crown. And what does that mean? And right before Tom escapes, he learns that his parents might still be alive, and he's given one clue, Britfield. And it's just really kind of cool royal mystery, but it really is about finding his family. And it really is based on friendship and family. Those are the key themes, key core through it. Youngest readers 7, oldest readers 93. 55% of our global reading audience are adults. And what's interesting is we have multiple characters in it. Everything from Oliver, who's a college student, and in book one he's 20 years old. He's a sophomore. To Detective Gowerstone, to other characters we bring in, like in book 2, Kate. She's 24, computer genius. Inspector Fontaine from Interpol. She's kind of early 30s, attractive, smart, athletic. So we've got all these really great cast of characters, and we get feedback from parents and adults worldwide. I mean, you name it: Germany, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, all over the world. And we're selling Britfield books all over the world. And so book one is in England, and it's kind of our sort of middle school, but again, great for any reading audience. Book 2, we launched in July 2021, Britfield and the Rise of the Lion. That takes place in France. We're now 6 months later. Our main characters are 13, and that's 474 pages. That's kind of my Empire Strikes Back. Very intense. And we get into, it's like
Love it.
Stakes are higher. And some of that, we'll talk about some of the topics that we interweave through these, because it takes place in current time. And these books are as realistic as possible. We bring in real events and in many cases, what's happening behind the scenes that they're not reporting. Number 3 is Britfield and Return of the Prince, 575 pages. That's in Italy. Main characters are now 14. And then we just launched book 4, which you can sort of see behind me, which is very cool. Britfield and the Eastern Empire. Starts in Vienna, ends in Moscow. And we actually include 11 countries, and it's 437 pages. And so book 4 is really a keystone in the 7-book series, and sort of a shift from the first three. And the first three were great. That's kind of the trilogy. Think of the first Star Wars, right?
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars, Return of the Empire, and The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. And then book 4 is kind of key, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to keep the page count right around 450. And I'm including a lot of countries. And so it starts in Vienna and it heads to Bratislava, Slovakia, heads to Czech Republic, Prague. We have a great scene called Spy Games in Berlin. And then it heads up into Krakow and Warsaw, Poland, and up to the Baltic Sea. And then we include Lithuania and Budapest, and finally get into sort of Russia, St. Petersburg, Russia. There you go. Yeah, look at that. Mm-hmm. And there's the Hermitage right there in the middle. It's so cool, so beautiful. And then Moscow, and it kind of ends in Moscow. And so, again, a lot more intense than the first three. Some of the feedback that we received from sort of our fan base, or people that love the series, best one so far. One of my favorite comments is from an older gentleman that goes, "I've never read a novel so quickly." And I thought, that's cool. And there's a lot of reasons behind that. If we have time, we can talk about why it's like that. And about 4 weeks ago, I just started book 5, Britfield and the Lost Treasure. And this will take place throughout Asia. It starts in Siberia and goes through Mongolia, parts of China, Japan, and all through there, and kind of ends in Australia. So that's kind of what I'm really working on now. I had a nice 4-month break. And but it's exciting. It's so exciting when you're back into your world of writing. And it's hard. Like 4 weeks ago I started, I had a blank piece of paper. I'm like, all right, so where do I start? And what I tend to do for these books is I'll spend 3 or 4 months outlining them first, and I will figure out every single scene. So it's not like I got a general idea and I just start writing. That's kind of like going on a 4-month road trip with a map, but no plan of where you're going. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like you better look at the map, plan out all your stops, where you're going, what's your destination. So I spent an intense time on the outline, and really it comes down to like a bullet point per scene. Now I'll flush out stuff in a separate paper where I'm kind of going through each scene, and I got ideas. Sometimes it's just 1 sentence lines that'll move it along. But when you're looking at the entire outline, you just have scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, and they're all connected, and they all make sense, and they're all blended together, and they're all in the perfect position that they need to be. I work off of plot points. It's really based on the 3-act structure, and it's also based on an advanced movie script. And I think that's why, number one, most people that read book 1 or reads the series say it reads like a movie. Some of the favorite comments is that I feel like I'm in it, or I feel like I'm one of the characters, or I feel like I'm there. And I think a lot of that's just the writing style, starting on the action, ending on the action, economy of words, right? I don't over describe things. I'm always reminding myself it's not a travel book, it's not a history book, right? Yep. But I blend in a little bit along the way and stuff. And it is a technique of writing that it keeps it real concise and tight. I like to call them power lines. Is there some way that you could write 1 or 2 sentences that does the same job of what a paragraph would? Right. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to describe the city, I might sit there. Some authors would ramble on for like 3 paragraphs and bore you to death. Can I do all of that in like 2 or 3 sentences and capture the essence of it? Right. And if they want to find out more, they can. And it just keeps the book moving. The layered storytelling. I usually parallel 3 separate scenes, meaning if Tom and Sarah, the main character's main scene, every scene is its own story, beginning, a middle, and an end. It'll always end on, if you will, a cliffhanger. There was a knock at the door. Or someone spotted them climbing in the window, and then we go down. We jump to the next scene, which might be Oliver and Kate working on something, and then Fontaine and Gowerstone, and then I come back on scene 4 to Tom and Sarah. And so it's an interesting way to layer it within the different chapters, if that makes sense. And so you look at book 4, and it actually was 75 scenes, and it's really 75 intense, well written from start to finish stories. And I'll be honest, it's like I look back on my books and I'm like, what's my favorite scene or scenes? And it's like almost every scene, because every scene needs to be there. It's unique, it's fun, it's interesting, and it has a huge, essence to it. And there's always these character arcs and development, and the dialogue is tight and funny and clever. And I'll be honest, like for those that are familiar with the series, I introduced Hunter in book 3, which is Tom's younger brother. I don't want to give too much away, but I guess I'm giving a lot. But so now Tom's 14 and Hunter's 12. But when I got done with book 4, Hunter's like now my favorite character. He's so funny. And I love it when you're like really into your characters. And it's like the banter and the dialogue. I don't need to think of what to write. I just write it, if that makes sense. It's like I'm into the scene and what would Hunter say? You know what I mean? And just kind of shrugs his shoulders or something, or oops, or sorry about that. Or, and it's funny too, because he's the youngest. And yet he seems to be the voice of reason, And and especially in book 4, Tom and Sarah are now 15 years old, and we can remember what that's like. We don't have a great deal of respect for the adults or authority, right? We're a little bit off the reservation, right? We're a little more rogue, and we think we know better. And it's funny because that's kind of where Tom and Sarah are in book 4, and Hunter's kind of grounded, and he's like, I don't think we should really be doing this. You know what I mean? And he's so funny, and I have so much fun with my characters and stuff. They're all so cool, and I've got just so many revelations and reveals. And along that outline, and then I'll stop talking, is so I'll have like we'll start right on the action in the first chapter, first paragraph, but I'll have a plot point 1A, and then I'll have a plot point 1B, and then I'll have midpoint, and then I'll have plot point 2, A, B, and C. And these are always a revelation or a twist or something that's framed within it. And I work off of midpoint, which is halfway dead in the middle of the book, and very key, huge revelation that projects the next half of the book forward and stuff. So I work within this framework very, very tightly. And just to give you an example, back 2 years ago when I started book 4 with my outline, I was shooting for 450 pages, and it came in at 437. That's not bad.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I was surprised. I thought it'd be like 460, 465. And I'm like, wow. I still don't know how I got so much story into book 4. I mean, it's just like, to me, it's like nothing you've ever read before, as far as just the movement, the layers, I'm now describing 11 different countries, and somehow I did all of that. So,
oh wow, hang on here, Chad. I got a little echo coming back on me here. There we go. That's better. I'm so many questions to follow up on. You said so much. What was it? Was it a 7-book series from the very beginning, or did you write the first one and then realize this has to go on?
Yeah, real quick. Book 5, as I said, is in Asia, and then book 6 will be in South America, and then we'll end the series in book 7 in the United States, and then probably returning to London where it all started. But so I've got book 5 ahead of me, and then 2 more books. But no, it wasn't that at all. I was dying to do something creative. I was an investment banker, worked for 3 Fortune 100 companies, and actually lived in England off and on for about 2 years, which is part of it. I was a British literature, European history major, and I was dying to do something creative. And that's when I got the idea for Britfield, and just sat down, and it was kind of fun to just do that without any boundaries. I'm like, let's just see where it goes. You know what I mean? I was just let it flow. And it was flowing out of me. But when I started it, I was just definitely thinking 1 book. And I wasn't even thinking 384 pages, but that's the final count. And by the time I got to the end of book 1, I thought, we've got a series here. And I was thinking at least, excuse my itching there. I think we have at least 3 books, at the time. And I was thinking, because you want to do like England, France, and Italy. Those are kind of the key countries. And then as it expanded, it was Eastern Europe, and then it was Asia and South America, become this worldwide fast-paced adventure. And they all continue. You know what I mean? It picks up 6 weeks later, or 6 months later. It picks up a year later. A little bit like the Harry Potter series, in the sense that every year they come back to school, if that makes sense. They're 1 year older. You know what I mean? But it's kind of continuing on. And ours isn't like separate stories per se. It's always this kind of same search for the family and the Britfields and all this kind of stuff. And but something happens, whether they're imprisoned or they're they're hiding. And I think the first chapter of book 4 is called I forgot it. Nope, I forgot it. But anyway, Anyway, so here I'll look it up. But it's called Fortress Austria. Okay. And so like book 4, it starts where they've been locked. It ended in Salzburg, Austria. Now they're in Vienna, and it's 6 months later. But they've been this group behind the scenes, the committee, has basically locked the borders, and they're kind of like they've been stuck in Austria for 6 months, and they're trying to get out. So
when you sat down to write that first one, it was kind of this creative difference from what your job was, and so you got this creative outlet flowing. Did you have that same structure from the very beginning about the point one, point 1A
I did.
midpoint? Okay, so
Yeah, but not as intense. And
Okay.
meaning like I started writing script writing, movie scripts when I was like 17 or 18, taking classes
Mm.
and then writing my own and working with professionals in the industry. And so I subconsciously had this extraordinary tight structure of storytelling. So when I sat down to write book one, Britfield and Lost Crown, I wasn't thinking, oh, I'll just base it on movie and all that kind of stuff. But I had all of that in me. I was used to writing tight scenes, starting on the action, ending on the action. And I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. And then really good dialogue. You know what I mean? If it's not needed, you don't put it in there. And starting on the action and ending on the action is, they call it entering late and leaving early. And so, most writers will sit there and say he was sitting at his desk working and there was a knock at the door. Who is it? It's John. Oh, come in. John walks in the door, hangs up his coat, puts down his hat. And then they get into this for like and he touches his watch and he's unbuttoning his blah, 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 blah. Finally walks over to the table and it's just like, he just wasted a half a page. Who cares? You know what I mean? Versus the next scene starts with that character standing over the desk saying, well, you were supposed to call me to, you know what I mean? You're starting right on the action. And then he says, all right, I'll get to it. No matter what. And then boom, next scene versus, okay, I'll get to it no matter what. And he's like, well, you better. And then he goes, and the man walks over, gets his coat, gets it, and leaves the door. All that's extra stuff that you don't need.
Okay.
And so that's the idea of entering late, leaving early, starting on the action, leaving on the action, cutting all the fat. If it does not need to be there, if it does not move the story forward. And to give you an idea, like on my last draft. So what I'll do is I'll write and edit multiple drafts on my laptop because it's fast and easy. And it's like, you get it as good as you can. And then what I'll do is I'll get into the paper edit. And for anyone that's familiar with this, what you create on your Word doc on your laptop or computer versus once it's printed is like night and day. It reads very, very differently. And so if you're writing a really important email or a memo or your resume, it's great to do it on your laptop first, then print it out, sit down and start reading it. And so the paper edit is where you just pick up so much stuff and clean it up. And so I'll go through this massive editing process of the paper edit. I only print 2 or 3 pages at a time because I'll be changing so much. And the second I change it, I come back and then I print it again and I read it. And the idea is like you're combing matted hair and you're just trying to get it so smooth that every single line and every single sentence just flows. And on my last edit, what I'll try to do is I'll try to get rid of at least 1 sentence per page. That's my goal. It's already as tight as I can get it. Is there anything that I can get rid of? Is there anything that does not need to be there? Can I take 2 lines and combine it to 1? And what it does is it just tightens the whole story. And that's why you get an adult that read book 4, 437 pages and says, I've never read a novel so quickly. Because it's the way that I write. You don't get stuck on speed bumps, right? And how many of us have read books like that? Most of them. But they kind of drag, or there's too much description, or you get away from the story, or you're leapfrogging these paragraphs because you don't care. Get to the story. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's really cool. I love that. Yeah, it's almost like your version of Doge. Cut until you cut too much, and then put a little back.
That's one way to look at it. Yeah,
that's great. So obviously, it's going to be 7 books. Where they end up. USA back in book 7. Do you know how it all wraps up? A big picture, or is that still open in your head?
I don't. It's interesting. And I know some authors have sort of, if you will, worked out their whole series and kind of know how it ends. I don't. And I think that's also what makes it kind of fun and unique. Like if you think you know where the story's going, give up because you don't, really. And it's not that it's extremely well outlined, but it's just like, it's not, things are going to happen that you're not expecting. But no, I don't know. I have no idea about book 6 yet, if that makes sense. But what is fun there's a lot of challenges to writing a series. I'm thinking about Charles Dickens, where he has all these great books, Oliver Twist and David Copperfield and Great Expectations and, all these different stories, and they're separate, right? And with a whole new cast of characters. For me, it's a little more difficult because, it's like, how do I outdo book 2? And how do I outdo book 3 and book 4? And it's so funny as I'm going through book 5 and I'm like, I'll get an idea. And I'm like, no, I did that in 2. It's just like, so, okay. But on the other side of that, you've been developing your characters, and it's really, really cool. I really know my characters now, and I'm like, and they're growing, and especially too with the younger kids. I mean, think about the difference of Tom and Sarah at 12 to where they are now at 16. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's like 4 decades. You know what I mean? Really. because at that young of an age, every year is like a decade. And so they're a lot more mature. Just think going from 12 to 13. Think how you were when you were 12 and how you were when you were 14. Very different, right? 35 to 36, who cares? 43 to 46, who cares?
Right.
But at that age, they develop. And so it's fun growing with them and introducing new things. Like, we don't really talk about romance in book 1 or even 2, but we touch on it in book 3, where Tom just starts to look at Sarah and he gets caught looking at her, right? And nothing more than that. But he's 14, you know what I mean? And it's kind of natural. And then 15, it's like we get into sort of he really likes her, you know what I mean? And we can think back how we were when we were 15 years old and stuff. So I played true to that thread that goes through, plus my other characters and what's at stake for them. And it's really cool. It's fun to develop the characters along the way.
Yeah. So it's interesting listening to you talk about that. This really it takes on a life of its own, and it's a living thing that you've created, and even you don't quite know which direction that living thing is going to go. That's really fascinating.
It is. And I'll give you an example in 5, because it might be interesting to the audience too, but I'm doing research all the time. I've got a map, I printed out a whole map of starting in Siberia and a specific place, and then Mongolia, and then how the whole story gets. Right now, I've gotten as far as Japan and how they get there. And so I'm looking at distances. I'm looking at flight times. I mean, if they were to drive, if they were to hike, I'm looking up like how far can someone walk in a day? How far can they hike? What type of animals are in a Mongolian forest? What's the temperature in September? I'm always I'm pulling up pictures of the border between Mongolia and Russia, so I can describe it. And there's a scene where they sneak onto a cargo plane, and I'm like, well, they can't sort of be in the back if it's not pressurized, because then they'll suffocate. And I'm like, at what level do they fly when you lose oxygen? I think it's 13,000 feet. And then I'm like, how cold would 40,000 feet? It's actually 40 below zero. So these are the kind of things I'm looking up to, but I'm like, well, we'll make it pressurized. And then I'm looking it up, and I'm like, yeah, most cargo holds are actually pressurized because they don't want the cargo to freeze or. And so I say all that to say that I'm looking these things up all the time. So it's very authentic. It's very real. What time does the sun set, in Beijing in mid-September? What are some of the locations that they can go to? And so it's fun. And when you're true to the story, and I'm like, they're hiking and they're out there, and suddenly, and they're being chased because they've escaped from this, basically, they were sort of arrested in book 4 and moved to Siberia. It's pretty cool. And they've been at this detention center for like 17 months. And it starts out right when they're going to break out. Kind of think of The Great Escape, and it parallels a little bit of book 1 for anyone that read it. But and so they're being chased and all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, like, who they bump into, and then all of a sudden, like what am I going to do with Mongolia too? It's like, there's not a lot in Mongolia. There's some great scenery, but there's not really much city. You know what I mean? You get to like Boston or London or Paris, it's like, wow, I've got all kinds of ideas and architecture. And so I think, well, what if they bumped into some nomads, that route hunting? And they help them and bring them to their tribe. And so I'm pulling up, like, what would the tribe look like? And, I do things like that all the time. And one scene, like when they're in Beijing, they don't have much money. The nomads actually give them a little bit of their money to help them, get along their way and stuff. And I'm like, they need to stay at a hotel because it's nighttime. And I'm like, and I always do like a really cool, fancy hotel that they stay at, either in Rome or somewhere else, like St. Petersburg, Russia. And I'm like, the Four Seasons. And I'm like, it just doesn't really work, though. It just makes sense that they'd have enough money and all that kind of stuff. And I said, what if they're walking over there and then they see employees coming in and out the back, and they sneak in and they put on the clothing, and then Hunter hacks the system to see if there's any available rooms and stuff, and finds a suite, and they swipe a key card. And you know what I mean? Like, and that kind of came out of it. And I'm like, I like that. Like, that's, I was thinking about it. I'm like, that works. I was like laughing to myself. I'm like, that's a cool scene and stuff. So again, I'm just, you're always making stuff up.
Wow. No, that's cool. Well, Chad, the books have been a big success on their own and continue to do so. But I think what's really going to put you on the map is this upcoming movie. So maybe we can talk about that for a little bit. I know last time you were on the show, we talked about it, but I think you're much further down the road now. So when's the movie coming out? Anything you can tell us as far as any casting ideas or anything like that?
Sure.
Yeah. What's the latest?
Yeah. And it's been in development for over 3 years. And I know a lot of people mention development, but is another word for nothing. But for us, it's been massive development for 3 years. We spent over 18 months on the movie script, and as I said before, if you're going to build a $50 million house, you don't go out with a couple of sketches and some pictures and then start ordering material, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want the most well-crafted architectural plans from foundation up. And so here's actually, this was finished about 6 weeks ago. It's the 7th draft, final script for the movie. It'll come in at about 2 hours and 10 minutes, 2 hours and 15 minutes, which will work for this film because it'll finish and you won't believe it's over. The first Star Wars movie was 2 hours. The first Harry Potter movie was 2.5 hours. So we're kind of aiming for that middle section there.
Yep.
We're already reaching out to a couple key directors that would be a great fit. Once we have more information on that, I know who they are, but I don't want to mention them. But they're blockbuster directors that have worked on some of the highest grossing films. They're good with book adaptations, and they're great working with kids, which is a very key combination, meaning like, it'd be great to get the director of the James Bond movies, right? But that wouldn't really work for someone that worked with kids because it's so different, right? Yeah, he's great at fast-paced action, but totally different. And so you need someone that's a great storyteller. You need someone that understands action, big box office potential. See, the difference too is like the first movie, this is one of 7 movies. Now they might not be the same director on all of them, but it's not a one-off movie. And so it's really important that this is the launching pad. The main actors will be along for the whole ride as with the Harry Potter movie. And there's a lot of similarities to that. And so we're now in pre-production. I just had a, go ahead.
No, sorry. You just said something that made me think. So, obviously when you're casting children, they grow up fast. Once you start shooting these movies, do you have to shoot like back to back to back to keep them at the appropriate ages and not let them grow too fast and not appear their ages? Yeah,
it's interesting too. I was seeing The Sound of Music, and they had that problem because it took so long to shoot because they were having so much with the weather. Like just that opening scene of her, when she was kind of, the hills are alive. I think that took like 7 to 10 days for that, like 15, 20, 30 seconds because the weather kept changing. And then the kids would grow older, and so they had to keep using lifts, right? Because you had them all lined up like that. And then it was funny. I just watched. I'm getting off the topic real quick, but it's actually, you should watch it. It's on YouTube. It's the reunion of the original cast from The Breakfast Club, 40th anniversary in Chicago. All 5 of them are there. Oh, wow. And it's phenomenal. And it's a huge shout out to John Hughes and what an amazing filmmaker he was and what he was like to work with. But it was funny because Judd Nelson was saying, when we started shooting, the nerd, I can't think of his name, Michael Anthony Hall was kind of like, was like shorter. And he said by the time we were kind of finishing, he was like about, even. Yeah. And by the time we got done with the editing and the pickup shots, he was higher than I was. And so you always had that sort of problem. I think what we'll be looking at is 2 veteran children actors, probably been in the game since 5 or 6, whether doing commercials or theater. They might be probably older, maybe 14 or 15, but have a very youthful look. And then, what will happen is the second we wrap the movie and get into post-production, I'd say we'll have a small break of maybe 3 to 4 months and then start shooting in France and continue it. Yeah. So that is the kind of goal. It's not like we'll finish the first movie and then you got to wait 4 years or whatever. We're locked and loaded. We're ready to go through this whole series. What's great is we got 4 stories already. And by the time, the movie's out, we'll have the 5th story, book 5. And we'll start writing the screenplay for Britfield and the Rise of the Lion probably in the next couple of months. And so in the next 18 months, the script for the second movie will be 100% finished and ready to go. And that'll be tough. I mean, it's tough to get 384 pages because, again, right, coming back to full circle, what I was saying about story, I don't waste words, and I don't have scenes that can be cut per se, if that makes sense. I mean, everything's there and it's a great scene. And so it's difficult. It was really, really hard to do that.
Well, and you just held up the what do you say, draft 7 for the script for the movie, but it's not like you just copy and paste from the book into there. I mean, this is a whole different endeavor, right? I mean, so this is
it's a whole different ball game. It's a certain style and technique to writing, and it comes back to what I was saying. What's interesting about a script is that every page is about a minute, and that's accurate. So if I have a 2-hour movie, I've got about 120, maybe 130 page script, no more. You know, if someone's coming to you with like 200-page script, it's like, what is it, a miniseries? Right? I mean, you have no concept. And so that's tough. Your description is anywhere from 2 to 3 lines, so you don't get paragraphs in scripts. And you don't have a great deal of direction. And I remember, I'll give you an example. When I wrote my first script, you know, I was younger and stuff. And, you know, I'd have this big description, you know, as they're coming in, like, no, get it down to 2 or 3 lines. And then I'd have like, when he walked in, he did this and that and stuff. And he said, no, you don't direct. The director will direct. And then I'm like, in this scene, this music plays. And they're like, no, the producer will pick the music. And I'm like, ah, you know, like, what can I do? And again, it teaches you, it's all story. It's only story. It's basically the setup, dialogue, you know what I mean? And then ending. And again, starting on the action, ending on the action. There's not a knock at the door. You'll start on the scene. Well, make sure you go do that. Boom, next scene, you know?
Chad, I mean, you're such a man into the details on everything. How involved will you be in the movies? You know, once you hire a director, you trust them to direct, but you know in your head what these scenes are supposed to look like, or at least what they look like in your head. Do you envision being on set or with the set design? I mean, are you going to have that level of detail involvement in these movies?
Yeah, great question. And we've got a great producer team that I hired, you know, over 3 years ago. And so that will be kind of their gig. And then part of my team that I've been building around it will be a big part of it. I'll be a producer on it, one of the producers. But it's the director is the captain of the ship, and the director is so important. Not to speak the obvious, but again, the captain of the ship. It's his vision. It's his orchestration. It's like the manager. The CEO could be the producer, and then the manager is the day-to-day business, right? I mean, he's out there getting the job done. Producer's kind of big picture, and so that'll be key. So I will be involved, but I don't want to be that involved, if that makes sense.
So is that going to be hard for you? If the vision the director pulls together is not the vision you've had as you've been typing these scenes and writing them, and it's like, well, no, the room didn't look like that. The room looked like this.
No, I mean, I'll be in England. We're hoping to shoot in England. Okay. We're already working with the film department, setting up the proper permits and everything, and that's going to take about 3 months. In fact, the producer is going to be in London in May. Getting some further things done. I'm hoping to start filming the movie in spring of next year in England for a lot of reasons. One is for the authenticity of it. Number 2, it's great for publicity. Number 3, it's great for British tourism. Number 4, if they can give us great tax credits. Number 5, it's going to be pretty much all British cast, and so it's not Americans doing a British accent. And so most of them live there anyway, and it's just perfect. You know what I mean? To shoot there. So, and then the release date in a perfect world would be November 2026, a year from this November. It'll probably be November 2027. But after that first movie is in the can, as they say, things will really start to move. But no, I don't. I'll be there and I'll be involved. And because I know what you're saying, it's about the quality control, and I have no tolerance for anything moving out of that spectrum. Although I am very familiar with the creative process and in the improv process. And so although we've written the script and we're on a 7th draft, I always like to say it's 85, 90% finished, because the script is never done. But with that said, you want it absolutely perfect, every scene that needs to be in it, because this is why so many movies fail. One of the reasons, the number one reason, is that Hollywood's just putting out crap that no one wants to watch. Right. And it's not a story that anyone wants to watch. But number 2 is like they kind of have the general idea of it and they think it'll kind of work itself out. Nothing will work out. Not at $500,000 a minute. You know what I mean? Or whatever, $250,000 a day or whatever it's costing the film. It's like, no. And so with that said, once the characters are into character, they might have a little, part of it is like the dialogue is really important and the story is important because it parallels the book and you don't want to deviate from that. And there's certain lines in there that need to be in there and they're classic. Right. But the improv process is wonderful. And with a great director that's bringing out the best, who knows? I might have this line or a couple lines and then it comes down to just a look. Tom says something and she just gives him this look and you're like, hold it, cut. You know what I mean? Like, and she doesn't say anything. Or there might be a more natural word or a natural line that comes out. So I definitely have that flexibility. I think that's a really great organic process. I'm thinking of Robin Williams. It's like, I don't know how much of the script ever made it on to anything he did in movies, but that's kind of the extreme version of it. But, some talented actors, when they're feeling the character, when they're into the scene, something even better than I could possibly come up with or write. That kind of flexibility is great. Plus, I trust the director to a certain extent because I have to, but we don't want to deviate. The point is like, it's not a standalone movie. It's based on the book, and the book works, right? The story works. If it's not broken, don't try to fix it. So you're kind of locked into that framework anyway. But I'll have a great team on the floor, on the ground there. I'll be involved, but not day to day. I'll probably look at some of the shoots and things like that. And being the first one, I'll have to be more involved than normally. And it's all, we control all of it. It'll be an independent film outside of Hollywood, but with all of Hollywood's, great actors and directors and cinematographers and all of that, but you don't need the big studio. We'll have a major distributor, but we'll be outside of it. So we control a great deal of that process, content, and even the capital raise. We're not relying on $50 million from Hollywood. We're raising it ourselves. So.
Yeah, and I think last time you were on, you had some opening for if people actually wanted to invest. Is that still open?
It's a possibility. Yeah, you got to be a qualified investor.
Sure. And this can't be a solicitation. We're not doing any of that stuff, but just generally.
Yeah, it's not like a crowdfunding thing or what Angel Studios is doing, which I'm suspect about anyway. But yeah, I mean, there's always opportunities. If you have any interest at all in Britfield or investing in Britfield, you can always go to our website, Britfield.com, and send us an email, and we'll follow up with details and content, because it is a great endeavor. We're in it for long haul. This is the next 25 years. We believe we'll outsell the Harry Potter series. I had one investment banker, I think it was last year, 18 months ago, who looked at the business plan and everything we've done to date. And we had a 4-hour conversation. He goes, I think you guys could be bigger than Star Wars. And it's interesting. It's a heck of a comment. And I'm a big Star Wars fan. And Star Wars is almost into 50 years now from 1977, first launch. And it's a $74 billion franchise. But if you think about it, Star Wars is sci-fi, right? Britfield is real. It's clean. It's here. It's the world, and it's the travel. It's all these wonderful countries and the culture and the history and the architecture. And it's so rich and it's so wonderful. Can you imagine a book series that's educational and it actually fosters creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration, fosters it. We like to call it stealth education.
Yeah, I was just reading earlier today, actually, that a lot of the stats coming out on Gen Z, I think this is going to hit you perfectly, because they're saying Gen Z has flipped back to quote unquote traditional values, conservative values. Awesome. They want truth. They know they've been lied to a lot, and they want truth. I mean, I think that's just a perfect fit for this book series.
It is, and it's the perfect storm. A lot of people have said it's like right now it's the perfect storm with where we are with Britfield. So for 6 years, it's been a soft release. So from August 2019 to really January, February this year, it's been a soft release. It's building the brand, it's getting the trilogy out there, and then finally launching book 4. But there's so much behind the process. It's like Amazon, if anyone's familiar with the whole story behind it. I mean, they were in the red for years before they were, perfecting the process. Federal Express, same thing. Like on their first order of 130 packages, I think 7 got there on time. You know what I mean? But these are like big conglomerates that they're building the big picture. That's what Britfield has been. We're building this huge platform, and we are now, what I have said before, is D-Day for us, and it's exciting. And in fact, that transition is officially started in April, especially over the last couple of weeks as we go global now, and as we really start rolling out. We just hired a PR team that's coming in, start doing some amazing press releases, especially around the movie. You're going to start to see teaser trailers for the film probably in the next 8 to 10 weeks. More CGI, but looking really cool, really official, real clean. 30-second spots, 60-second spots. We're already working with a amazing music team for sound effects and the music of the entire movie. And music makes a movie. It's interesting. George Lucas said with Star Wars, like once John Williams came in, and watched a scene with his music, he goes, you just made the movie. And
you sit and I still remember, to this day. Of course, we had the remake a couple years ago, but when that opening music to Top Gun kicks in, that makes the movie, right? I mean, you are a fighter jet pilot. I mean, that music is iconic. Or the opening scene, Jurassic Park. I mean, that music just as they're flying in on the helicopter, it's perfect.
Yeah, and so the team we're working with, and one of the women, it's quite interesting. She was one of the youngest at Juilliard. She worked with John Lennon for 7 years. How cool is that? Actually worked with John Williams for years. And so is coming from that whole background, classically trained, but she's got this incredible team that she works with, eclectic. Someone's pop, someone's this, and they all have their different styles, and they all come in collaboration. But I'm telling you something, we're going to have. Think of Les Miserables and the musical, one of my favorites. And even this weekend, I was listening to some of the music. I mean, just some of the best music ever written, some of the most heartfelt songs ever written. And we're going to have some of those in the Britfield movie. I mean, something that kind of like what Celine Dion, I'm not a fan, but what she did for Titanic. I mean, do you remember that song, one. And My Heart Will Go On? And it's just like powerful ballads. And we'll have some of that. We'll have the most intense, incredible music. Step by step, second by second, minute by minute, the entire thing. And it's just going to be incredible. I mean, my anticipation, as I said before, is that it'll be one of the highest grossing films in cinematic history. I don't think the industry or even the audience will know what's coming. I think, when I was doing my final polish on the script, and I can remove myself, I can be my worst critic or the devil's advocate. And I tend to do that all the time. Everything's got to make sense. Well, hold on. How does that happen? Or would that make sense? Or that could work. And I'm doing the script and I'm coming over it and I'm seeing every single scene, every page, every minute, and it's like, if you look at the movie and you look at the script, you start right on the action, you come right into the story. By scene, by 3 or 4 minutes, he's being pulled into Mr. Grievous's office. He's threatened that he Tom has to turn everybody in the next 2 days, or his next 6 years, at whether he's going to be miserable. He meets with Sarah that night up on the thing called The View, 6 stories up. She gets caught. She's put into solitude. And so within 12 minutes of the movie, Patrick, the oldest orphan, is sitting down with the rest of the kids, and they're planning the Great Escape. So 12 minutes in it, they're already planning the Great Escape. Within 14 minutes of the movie, for the next 15 to 16 minutes, pure action. Pure action is all these different things are happening, and they're trying to escape, and Tom's climbing up to rescue her, and the rope starts to fall, and the dog Win, which is kind of this vicious dog, is off its leash, and it's growling, and it's hearing something, and Speckle, the intaker, is getting suspicious and checking the doors, and and it just builds and builds and builds and builds, and then Mrs. Grievous sees, and then all of a sudden it's like they see him, and the light flips on, and everything is lit, and it's like a total disaster, and the Great Escape continues. And so at 30 minutes into the movie, ending Act 1, plot point 1, you just had 16 minutes of pure action, more than most films have in their entire film.
Yeah.
And they just escape, and they're just kind of sitting in this cul-de-sac trying to get, now they need to get to the train station 4 miles away. And I'm thinking to the audience, you ain't seen nothing yet. I'm just getting you warmed up. Because you have absolutely no idea where this thing's going to go. And it builds 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 and it builds. And it's got such heartwarming scenes. It's got such intensity. People that are watching it, kids and parents, they're gonna laugh. They're gonna cry. They're gonna cheer. I think kids will get out of their seats in certain scenes, and you'll actually hear clapping in the audience, and it'll be over after 2 hours and 15 minutes, and everyone will just be sitting there. Number one, they can't believe that it's over. Number two, they can't believe what they just saw. And I think they'll go buy tickets and go see it again. It's the kind of movie like Star Wars, the first Star Wars. You'll go and see it, 5, 7, 10 times. You will not be able to get enough of it. And the difference with it is it's feeding your soul, and it's like most of the stuff out there right now is like McDonald's, right? It smells good and it tastes good, but after you eat it, it doesn't feel good, right? It doesn't feed anything. It actually makes you fatter, and it's like it brings you down, and it's but it's like you eat a good meal, it tastes good, and you feel good, and it gives you energy, and that's like what this movie will do. It'll be feeding your soul. It'll go right to your soul.
Oh, that's cool. And I love that you've got what seems like, I mean, obviously I haven't seen the movie yet because it's not made, but what seems like you've got the perfect mix of just constant action, driving things forward. The 2 hours are going to fly by, but then it's it's not just action. There's so many movies right now. These, the start, like Avenger movies or the superhero movies.
Yeah,
Just
it's too much.
constant. Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah.
But there's nothing under it either. It's just constant blowing stuff up and car chases and whatever else. You've got the action, and you're teaching about. I mean, I got the list right here. You're teaching about artificial intelligence or quantum computers or AI or the stock market or one world digital currency. You've got all these concepts in the books that are right under the surface, and then you've got the action to make it fun, and it's all just layered on top of it. And then, like you said, it hits you more in the heart level too along the way too. And it's not just, we're not just teaching concepts, but then you're gonna want to stand up and clap. I mean, you got all the layers going.
It's like a whole nother level too, because it's like the Great Escape, and then they get to this, train station, and then Detective Gowerstone, who we now bring in, here's 35 minutes into the movie, and he's like this renowned detective, smooth, cool, calm. Think Colin Firth, like 15 years ago, and suddenly they're being chased by all these police. They're running across, and they get into this hot air balloon. They shoot up in the air, and then and they get to Oxford, and they crash land because their tanks run out of propane. And now they're stuck in Oxford, and we haven't even brought back this idea of this Britfield, this one word that Tom got before he left. And then all of a sudden, they meet Professor Hainsworth, and then he's like, "Well, ask the Professor Hainsworth, about Britfield." And then he talks about this a little bit. It's like this layering, and then they get to Windsor Castle, and Philip, who's the superintendent, knows more about it. And it's like we build a little bit on this whole idea of who is Britfield and what is it, and you find out that it's like the real royal dynasty of the British Empire that's been usurped over centuries, and finally usurped by Queen Victoria, that eventually became the Windsor, and then into the Windsor dynasty. And so it's like this huge revelation, right? Tom's somehow connected to it, so technically Tom might be the real royal heir to the British dynasty, who everyone thought was extinct. I mean, that's what I mean. Like, so it's like you have the fun and the action, the kids trying to get to London, but you have this amazing royal mystery that starts to unfold layer by layer. First with Professor Hainsworth, then with Philip, then with Dr. Beagleswick, who's an expert on dynasties when they get to London, and then finally down to the Archbishop of Canterbury. You know what I mean? And so it's like everyone knows a little bit, and they build on that information, and it's just an amazing story, and twists and turns all the way through it. People that you think you could trust, you couldn't trust, and you're not seeing it coming.
I love it. So, okay, back to the movies. Goal is November of 2026. It might be November of 2027 for the first one.
It won't be past that November 27, meaning like we're high octane now, fully focused. Development took longer than we thought. The script took longer than it should have. That won't happen again. But we're locked and loaded now. And
will it be a yearly release then after that, or what kind of?
No, it couldn't. It'll be every 18 months to 2 years. Yeah.
Okay.
It's really important though that it's released in November, because it's a Christmas movie, and Britfield was designed that way. It starts in late December, 7 days before Christmas, and it ends early that morning on Christmas. And so it's meant to be a Christmas movie, a Christmas classic. So in 10 years from now, when you're pulling out, Elf and Home Alone, you'll be pulling out Britfield and Lost Crown.
Right. Exactly. That's perfect. Okay. Well, good.
What's nice about book 2 is it takes place in July. And so I could see Britfield and the Rise of the Lion. I could see that be a summer release.
Well, there you go. Sure. You'll have your Christmas movie, and then you'll have your summer blockbuster. Yeah, that's perfect. 4th of July. That's perfect. Okay, so well, now tell me about this. We teased this earlier on, but I don't know how you're possibly going to fit this in if it actually comes to pass. But somehow you're going to write books 5, 6, and 7, and then you're going to write scripts for 7 movies, and then in the middle of all that, you're going to possibly maybe launch a ballet version. Tell me about that.
So real quick too, and it's like, I work with industry experts, and we hired a professional scriptwriter. So it's not like I'm trying to be jack of all trades, master of none. I highly enjoy experts in the industry. I've got 4 different graphic designers. Like Tiffany's the one that's done all these incredible, book covers and stuff. So we're always working with people, but I do have the training in the script writing, and I understand the story. And but anyway, so we developed the Britfield and Lost Crown theatrical play, right? And so we did that about 18 months ago. We took the 384-page book and put it into a 90-minute 2-act play specifically for middle school and even high schools. And part of that was to bring back great quality content into the theater programs, not be a musical, and have speaking roles for over 30 actors that's involved all the way through, and give this incredible experience. Now, there is going to be eventually a musical version of it. So think of Les Mis, right?
Cool. Yep.
And I'm excited about that. You know,
do you envision would it have some of the music from the movies then, or totally separate?
I don't know. That's a great question. Could it? Would it? I could almost see it being authentic because it's different. But there's probably going to be a main theme, you know, a couple main songs from the movie, and would be incorporated into the musical. But with all of that said, and you're the first program to hear this because I developed it over the weekend, and it was really funny because I was doing an interview Saturday. And a woman had read the book and loved the series, and we're talking about all this other stuff. And then she was talking about my background, you know, and I'd been on the board of, I was the president of the board of San Diego Ballet, and then was a big supporter of the Boston Ballet, and I love the arts, you know, love ballet first, and then theater, and then symphony, and then opera. Opera is number 4, but I love the creative world, right? But I love ballet; it's just beautiful. To me, it's poetry in motion without words, right? It's a whole story told without a single word. That's amazing. And so we talked about the ballet, and she didn't mention it, but I thought to myself, oh my gosh, wow, Britfield and Lost Crown Ballet. And few things hit me hard, but that resonated with me and it stuck. And I thought, you know what, we could actually do that. And again, too, what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to bring great storytelling, great content into the different worlds of the arts. And it's very feasible. It's very possible to do it. I think the story works. I think it could be told well through ballet, be different. I mean, follow the same things, but it wouldn't be, you know, you'd have some kind of the main themes and stuff. But I'm thinking, like, how would that work? I mean, who would go see it? Because it's kind of a sort of a children's story, if you will. And then I was thinking of the Nutcracker, right? Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker. And I'm like, that's a Christmas classic. And that's what kids love to go see. And I'm thinking we could make it even better than the Nutcracker, really. And so, and I worked with the San Diego Ballet, and again, I'm just thinking, but I could definitely hire someone like them. They've got an incredible team of directors and owner of it, and you know, pay X amount of money, and then you could pilot it. You know what I mean? Like we could pay them to develop it, bring in the musical components, which I've got my team up in LA for the ballet, and then pilot it on a local level. You know what I mean? Never launch big. And it's like, you know, like could be like, let's just say, be honest, like next Christmas, we could be launching here in San Diego, Britfield and Lost Crown Ballet, and then build it from there. So, I mean, it'll take a while, but how amazing would that be? So
that is very cool. Yeah. Wow. I mean, you're just hitting every, I don't know what the word is, genre or every art form out there. It's very cool. Hey, so speaking of that, actually, you have an audio book too, right?
We do. Yeah. We have the Britfield Lost Crown audio. It's done by award-winning British voice talent, Ian Russell. It's phenomenal. I think it's 11 and a half hours. Okay. Everyone that's listened to it loves it. And I was talking with this one woman because she was listening to the audio, and she's like, I can't believe he does all the voices. He does all the voices of all the characters.
Wow.
Frickin' talk about talent. And we will develop all the others into audio. But right now we're in negotiations to be selling the international audio rights to Britfield and Lost Crown series. And so if we do that, then they'll develop all the audio books. So we've been kind of holding off on that. And we're also in negotiations potentially soon within the next 3 or 4 weeks of selling the international ebook rights, which means the global rights to the entire series for ebooks and stuff. So there's a lot of things that are happening. Yeah.
Well, we've got a little vacation plan for the summer. It's about 5.5 hours in the car one way. So I'm already planning out to put that on the speakers and just let the whole family listen to it.
It's great. I've listened to quite a bit of it. So it was funny too when we were developing it, and thank goodness this wasn't my job. But we had someone. Her name was Kelly. She was kind of handling all the back shop administrative, and so she had what we'd get a chapter. He'd submit I think like half a chapter every other day or whatever what his process was. She'd have to go back and listen to all of it and read the book and see if he'd missed lines,
Wow.
and then and then say like on 16 minutes 2 seconds you left out this word. Could you imagine having to do that? But that's kind of what's involved, right? And sometimes it's not critical, but sometimes it's a word that needs to be in there.
So it's just my ignorance on this, but like an audiobook like this, is he acting it out or is he reading it word for word?
Oh no, he's reading word for word.
Okay.
So he'll do the narration and then he'll switch into character, like with Tom or Sarah or Mr. Green. What are you doing in here right now? What? I don't know. Well, you shouldn't be. You know what I mean? Like so, like he's like shifts into it. Well, of course, with the British accent and stuff, and
very cool.
It's very cool. Yeah, like not my repertoire.
No, that's awesome. Well, hey, I don't want to put you on the spot, but
Sure.
last time you were on, we did something really fun. You did a giveaway of a signed book, and
sure.
It was really popular. People loved it, and the lady who won was so excited to get it. Would you be willing to do that again?
Yeah, absolutely. I can do a signed copy of Britfield and the Lost Crown as a giveaway. Is that what you wanted to do?
That would be great. That would be so much fun. All right. Well, I'll put up. I'll get.
I can do this too. I'll do a signed copy of Britfield and Lost Crown, and then I'll do also a separate. I'll do a signed Britfield and Lost Crown poster, which you see behind.
Oh yeah. Oh, cool.
Would that be cool?
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, wherever you're watching this, I'll put a link down below where you can get in on the giveaway. It'll be free to enter, and we'll have 2 lucky winners: 1 book and 1 poster. So that's cool. That's awesome. Well, Chad, I always say you hinted at it earlier on when you said you've kind of been on a soft launch or a soft rollout, and the movie's really going to bust this thing wide open. So it's always such a pleasure to get to chat with you. I know there's going to come a point in time when you're going to be too big and too busy to do stuff like this. So it's just a real treat to get to chat with you now. Thanks for always joining us. Too
big, and for friends, I always have time. But with that said, in fairness, it's I will get too busy because I just won't have time.
Yep.
For it, and it's like I spent like a good portion of this weekend signing books, and I'm like, I spent 4, and I'm grateful for every book I signed. So
sure,
I say it humbly, but I'm saying that was 4 hours that I could have been writing book 5. You know what I mean? It's like, what's more important? Like, I mean, like I've got to keep producing, and books just take everything out of you. I mean, every hour you're willing to give it, it'll take it and suck you dry. But no, we're excited, and it's interesting too because April really is sort of our official global launch of the series, and it's funny too because that's traditionally it used to be 13 months, and April 1st was the beginning of the new year. And unfortunately, they sort of usurped that and changed. I mean, who starts the new year in January 1st? Right?
Yes, that's right.
I mean, the dead of winter versus April 1st. It's spring. It's beautiful. That would be naturally. That's how God intended it.
That's
naturally a time to launch it. So I've always looked at April 1st as sort of the new year, if you will. And it feels like that for the last couple of years, kind of like January and February, March have been so sort of, if you will, slow, or it almost feels like it's wrapping up last year, you know? And totally. I feel now with April, I feel like, man, we've really launched into the new year now. So I'm excited.
Yeah. That's very cool. It's funny you say that because, even if you look at the months, the December days, that's 10, but it's month 12. November, 9, that's 11. So yeah, the calendar's all messed up. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 28 days, which was perfect. God's perfect balance. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, Chad, thank you so much for coming on. It's always so much fun to chat with you. We'll be watching for book 5. We'll be watching for movie 1, ballet 1. So much stuff going on. Thank you.
Yeah, and a lot more will be coming out, I'd say, in 6 to 8 weeks regarding the film and stuff. And it's like we hired a professional PR company. I think I might have mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it
within the last couple of weeks. So they're going to start doing some pretty cool press releases, and they've already showed me some examples of some of their pictures, and it was just like, it was so cool. It was like Northern England at night in this balloon, and it's like they were doing some amazing stuff. And so we've been waiting a long time for this, and we'll be doing some. We'll either hire a documentary, company, or we're going to document a lot of it, like the process along the way, and being in England or being around the writing table with some of the actors. And some of this will be live stream, and so like these are great opportunities to come back with people like yourself. Even if it's like 15 or 20 minutes, and it's a day in the life on the set or something, and yeah, that'll be fun.
I'd love to. Yeah, so stay in touch when that stuff starts coming out. I'd love to do some drop-ins and post whenever things go live. Where's the best place for people to find you, Chad, if they want to find you online or stay stay connected?
The Britfield and the Britfield.com website's the best place to go. It's an award-winning website. It's got over 400 pictures of England, interactive maps, has all our books. Anything you order through the website are still signed. So I'm still signing books only through the website. I'll be transitioning out of that pretty soon. You have the play there. If you push the play button, it's pretty cool. We sell these plays. We just sold one last week, which was great. School in Tennessee. So you can actually download the entire play. We have the actor's script, director's notes, 28 sound effects, 54 digital slides. It's turnkey operation, ready to go and into your school or homeschool group. And we have two versions, the full version or just licensing the script. And so we're excited about that. So it's a fun place. We have some of our school tour on there. Every now and then we'll still do a virtual author visit to a school.
Very cool. Yeah, this is I love what you're doing for the arts and for literature and everything else. I mean, this is just so good. We need a lot more of this stuff.
Thank you.
Very, very cool. All right. Well, the website is Britfield.com. What about any social media? Are you on Twitter? Are you on X? Or
we're just in the process of updating all of that. But no, we're on Instagram and Twitter or X, Facebook. And follow us and give us a shout out. They're and the books are they're wonderful. They're wonderful for adults, but they're also great presents or gifts for children, grandchildren. I'll be honest, our reading demographic is all over the place, and I think it's a lot what C.S. Lewis did with Narnia. He was writing that for adults. I don't know if a lot of people realize that. It wasn't supposed to be a children's series. It was supposed to be, he wanted to create a fast-paced, exciting story to bring back that wonderment of childhood for adults. And it became one of the best-selling children's stories. And I think a lot of what I've done with Britfield is sort of along that same genre. I'm writing these, highly influenced by James Bond, Bourne Identity, and Mission Impossible. I'm writing these really great, fast-paced book stories that just happen to be great for kids, but adults love them too. So,
yeah, there you go. Here's what others are saying, and you got 3 adult-looking people there. Very cool. All right. Well, Chad, thank you so much. Always love chatting with you. This is so cool what you're doing. I hope you find some time to sleep and get some rest somewhere in the middle of all this. But you're doing great stuff. Keep it up.
Oh, thank you. And it's always a privilege to be on your show. And thank you. And have a great week and a great April and into May. And Godspeed.
Hey, thank you. We'll have you back on soon.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.